Hey, what's up, guys? Pete Alonso here from the New York Mets, and I'm here with Alfred. And I just want to say thank you so much to all you guys for listening to the Metropolitan Report. It's a really awesome show. You got some great insight on Mets baseball, and yeah, it's a great place where Mets baseball is talked about, and we got a lot of really fun stuff coming up this year. And a lot of really great things coming from this team in the clubhouse, and I'm really excited to keep the ball rolling. And it's been such a fun season, and I'm really thankful for everybody coming out to the ballpark and supporting us, and it's just been absolutely tremendous. So thank everybody for listening to the Metropolitan Report, and Alfred, keep doing your thing, and as always, LFGM.
Hey, folks, it's Alfred Parsar Jr. again from the Metropolitan Report with an all new episode of the Metropolitan Report where we're going to continue our spring training coverage of this year's New York Mets. If you like the content and you like my opinions, and even if you don't like it, but you're a fan of sports talk or baseball talk or Mets talk in general, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below and get a notification every time we post a new episode. On today's episode, we're going to talk about the pitching rotation again, with debuts of two of the Mets starters, as well as the performance of somebody who's trying to make the rotation. And also, we have outfield injury news. So, not to waste any time and kick things off, yesterday's game in spring training between the Mets and the Miami Marlins, Kodai Senga and David Peterson both made their spring debuts. And Kodai Senga, of course, last season was limited to just one start. He got hurt in camp last year to start the year, went through a lengthy rehab process, made one start on July 25th against the Atlanta Braves, went five and a third, got the win, but got injured chasing a pop fly in the infield. We didn't see him again until the playoffs, where he had a great start against the Philadelphia Phillies in the NLDS, but got torn up by the Dodgers in the NLCS. But now, with a full offseason of rest and no setbacks, Kodai Senga pitched against the Miami Marlins yesterday. He looked really good. The plan was for Carlos Mendoza only to have him pitch one inning against the Marlins. Senga got out of the first inning on 15 pitches, and Mendoza allowed him to go out for a second. Kodai Senga was reported to have felt good. He said he felt good. He wanted to go back out there for a second inning. Of course, being the competitor he is, and that attitude that Senga has, he's a competitor, and it was no secret Mendoza listened to him and put him back out there. The original plan was to have him throw one inning and then do a bullpen session after, or throw on the backfields, but neither happened. He went out there. He pitched two innings, did Senga, against the Marlins. Two scoreless innings, I might add. Only gave up two hits, struck out two, and did not walk anybody. Senga, he looks like there are no setbacks. Of course, he had the shoulder impingement last season, and then he had the issue in the start against the Braves that kept him out until the postseason. But Kodai looked pretty good. It looked a little bit rusty in that first inning, but sailed through the second. From what I saw from Senga, he only threw the ghost fork pitch one time, and apparently the Marlins either got lucky on that ghost fork, because that ghost fork, when it's on, it's unhittable if you know Kodai Senga and you've seen him throw it. But either the Marlins got lucky or they had it well scouted, because out of the two hits he gave up, one of the hits was off of the only ghost fork pitch he threw the entire outing. But nonetheless, didn't give up a run. There was a play where he was able to cover first base on a ground out and had no incident. That was the same play he got hurt on last season when he pitched against the Braves in his lone major league start last season. So Senga moving around pretty well. His fastball topped out at 96 miles per hour, so his velocity was a little bit down. But again, for a guy who's coming off of an injury-plagued season, I'm just glad he was able to get through two innings with no issues. Again, Senga making his spring debut yesterday. No runs, no walks, and two hits to go along with two strikeouts for Kodai. I have no issues with Kodai Senga. He's most likely going to be the opening day starter. I would be very surprised if Senga was not the opening day starter. And I do believe that he's going to have a bounce back season this season, barring any type of injury. I have no problems with Kodai Senga here. I'm looking forward to seeing what else he has to offer in this the rest of this spring training this season. But again, I fully expect him to be the starter opening day. No issues whatsoever when it comes to Kodai Senga. I'm not worried. Um, Somebody else on the pitching rotation, the starting pitching staff, also made an appearance in that Miami Marlins game yesterday, and that was David Peterson. Of course, David Peterson, I've stated here on the report several times that he had a very impressive 2024, and he had an impressive spring debut. This was his spring debut. He came in relief of Senga, and he threw 3 innings. And in his 3 innings, no walks, only one hit, and he struck out 5. So he faced 9 batters and K'd 5 of them. Peterson looked really good. His mechanics looked good. And dare I say, he looks like he was in midseason form. The David Peterson that we saw in this outing against the Marlins yesterday, he looked like the David Peterson of 2024. No issues whatsoever. His delivery looked good. His mechanics looked good. Um, like I said, I feel Peterson is in midseason form. No issue with Peterson. And with Senga and Peterson, they were both locks to make the rotation anyway. Of course, Senga being the ace of the staff, presumably, and Peterson being a solid number 3 behind Clay Holmes. So Mets pitching rotation looking pretty good to start this season. Again, Peterson looked really, really good. He went out there 3 innings and he got a lot of whiffs, got a lot of swing and miss stuff. I'm not concerned about David Peterson either. I think should we see more outings from him this spring, I'm not concerned about Peterson at all. Peterson looked very dominant. Look again, midseason form, just like his 2024 self. Um, Mendoza was said to be very happy with Peterson's performance. And again, spring training is a little bit unorthodox. They just wanted to get Peterson some work. That's why he came in relief and didn't start because there's still so many guys in camp. The Mets have 69 players in big league camp. A lot of these guys, they want to see what they have, evaluate them, evaluate prospects. But again, 3 solid scoreless innings of one-hit baseball from the arm of David Peterson. No issue there. I think he and Senga are going to be good to go, barring some disaster or act of God. However, somebody who's trying to make the rotation that I am very worried about is Paul Blackburn. The last time we saw Paul Blackburn, he pitched on Sunday, uh, and he did not look good at all. Paul Blackburn, of course, the former Oakland A, played with the Mets last season, made 5 starts. He's recovering from a spinal fluid leak in his back. And the Mets, they played the Red Sox on Sunday, and boy, oh boy, oh boy, was Blackburn lit up like a candle in a dark room. Blackburn, of course, had the one good start on February 26th against the aforementioned Marlins, where he went 1 inning. He had 1 strikeout in that outing. Didn't allow a hit, no walks, but Sunday against the Red Sox, he gave up 4 runs on 3 hits, pitched 1 1/3 innings before he was pulled, struck out nobody, and walked 2. So, very, very rough outing. His spring numbers, he's made 2 starts, 2 1/3 innings, only 1 strikeout to 2 walks, and a whopping 11.57 ERA. Now, I've seen a lot of people out there on forums, on the internet, even in YouTube videos, say that Paul Blackburn should get a spot in the rotation over Griffin Canning. The guy, I understand, and people will say, "Oh, we'll give him a break. He's injured. They're bringing him along." Some people even say he should get a spot over Tyler McGill simply because McGill has minor league options and Blackburn doesn't. But with a team that has as high expectations as this Mets team does this year, and I said this before in our last episode, you absolutely cannot have a guy rehab on the job. You cannot. That is what the minor leagues are for. Of course, everybody wants to win games, but the goal of AAA is for player development, not to win championships, not to make the playoffs in the minors. Those got like the Mets organization could care less whether Syracuse wins the whatever they call the championship series down in AAA. Like it's that's not important. What's important is player development, and Blackburn is going. He's gonna need some reps, and he's gonna need some reps that don't come as a consequence to the team. Because yes, you can possibly have Blackburn on the opening day roster. You could give him a couple of starts, but it's got he his stuff is not good. It's just not good. Again, no discredit to the Boston Red Sox and their spring training and their camp, but you absolutely, but again, it's not like the Mets are like the Colorado Rockies where nobody has expectations for this team to to do anything. I doubt the guys in Colorado on their roster even have expectations for themselves to do anything this year. But it's not like the Mets are a bad team or in a rebuilding phase or not going to be a contender, have no postseason hopes. No, this team is expected to compete. And when you're expected to compete, you need to put the best players out there that give you a chance to win. And right now, it does not look like Paul Blackburn is one of those guys that gives you the best chance to win on the mound. Again, the guy's 0-1, 11.57 ERA in just 2 1/3 innings. 2 1/3 innings, that means he's faced 7 batters, only was able to strike out one. Well, he's faced more than seven. He got 7 outs. We put it that way. And out of 7 outs, only one was a strikeout, 2 walks. But Blackburn, I'm not liking what I'm seeing from Blackburn. Um, I understand that the Mets want to utilize team control as much as possible, but in this case, I rather go with what I know already. We've seen Tyler McGill since 2021. Tyler McGill was the starting pitcher for that no hitter. It wasn't his no hitter; it was a combined team no hitter. Only the second no hitter in Mets history back in 2022. So you know, we know what we're dealing with Tyler McGill. We don't know what we're dealing with Paul Blackburn. The 2022 All Star is not here right now. Again, I understand the guy's injured. I'm not trying to be rough on him, but he does not deserve to start the season in Flushing. The guy is basically rehabbing in spring training, and he looks bad. Only 5 starts last season, injury riddled season last season. Um, very rare. You hear a lot of things about guys getting hurt from hamstrings to rotator cuffs and abdominal injuries, obliques in baseball, but the guy had a spinal fluid leak. Let him rehab that in Syracuse. Again, this is not a time for on the job rehab. The Mets, they're built to win, and there's no room here to bring this guy along during the major league season. What's the worst that happen? He gets regular reps in Syracuse where he can afford to rediscover his mechanics. He can afford to be uncomfortable and learn to get comfortable again. But not in Flushing. Again, Blackburn having a horrid spring, 11.57 ERA. Um, if he continues to have poor outings, it looks like Tyler McGill and Griffin Canning may beat him out for those final rotation spots. In other news, Brandon Nimmo was reported to be dealing with knee soreness. He was supposed to play yesterday against the Marlins. He didn't play. Was supposed to play on Sunday against the Red Sox. He did not play. And again, this is spring training. They're probably only going to have him in for about an inning or two and take him out. But Brandon Nimmo with the knee injury. Carlos Mendoza did say that Nimmo is expected to at least play in some sort of spring training action later this week. Another guy who's also injured, hasn't played in spring training yet, is Starling Marte. Marte as well. Um, he's been dealing with knee soreness. Both outfielders with knee soreness. Am I concerned about either Nimmo or Marte? Not really. The Mets are very, very deep at outfield right now. Should either one of them be unable to make it to opening day, if you look at the Mets list of outfielders, we Brandon Nimmo, Starling Marte, they have Jose Siri, Jesse Winker, Tyrone Taylor, Jose Azocar, the former Padre. He's battling to get a bench spot in camp, as well as the latest trade acquisition, Alexander Canario. So the Mets very, very deep right now in the outfield. Brandon Nimmo, of course, is going to be on the team through 2030, signing that big extension last spring. Again, Nimmo should be getting some action this week coming up. Starling Marte should be available by the end of the week, early next week, according to Mendoza. Both of those outfielders dealing with knee issues. Again, I'm not worried about either guy, but as you can see on the screen, the Mets are very, very deep at in the outfield in spring training this year. Not worried whatsoever about the depth of this team in the out when it comes to the outfield. And of course, Jeff McNeil, who is currently a second baseman, has played in the outfield before. So in the event of some odd emergency, they have another capable outfield option in Jeff McNeil. Although it is very unlikely that he'll move off of second base for uh, for the time being. And then our final topic before we get out of here on the Metropolitan Report. There's been rumors floating around the internet that the Mets have had internal discussions about who the captain of the team should be, should there be a captain. Everybody thinks, well, it should be Francisco Lindor. Some people in the clubhouse apparently have lobbied for Brandon Nimmo. It's a very interesting situation because when you live in two, obviously Francisco Lindor, when he was with the Indians at the time, when he was with Cleveland, he was undoubtedly the locker room leader. He was the clubhouse leader. He was the leader of that team. That was his team. But then you look at Brandon Nimmo. He's the longest tenured Met on the club. Brandon Nimmo has been here since 2016. That's again that's 1 year shy of a decade for Brandon Nimmo. So it's like who do you go to? Of course, Lindor. Anytime that there's been accountability to be had, post game interview to be had. This current crop of Mets, Lindor, he's been very he's never been shy to face the media, but then again, neither is Pete Alonso. But I don't think Pete Alonso, who's a good friend of the show, by the way, as you can tell, I don't think he's going to be eligible for to be a captain in the thoughts of the Mets brass because he's not on a long-term deal. He could be out as soon as the end of this season, depending on how things play out with his opt-out that he has. Um, then you got to factor in Juan Soto. Juan Soto just got here, yes, but his contract is going to keep him here for the next 15 years. So Soto's going to be here till 2040. Do you really how would Soto even? You have to factor that in, especially because no offense, even though Lindor is a great player and probably will end up in Cooperstown one day, Juan Soto overshadows Francisco Lindor. But again, folks in the Mets clubhouse that and reports that I've seen, they're making cases for Brandon Nimmo to at least be co-captains with Lindor if they're going to pick a captain. Of course, the last captain in Mets franchise history was David Wright. The Mets have had co-captains before. In 1988, they had Keith Hernandez and Gary Carter serve as co-captains. Of course, Keith and Gary, part of that 1986 Mets championship team, the last Mets team to win a World Series. But the Mets, again, they've had internal talks. Reports have stated that the talks have been going on all spring and have just recently cooled down as of a couple days ago. But again, I don't know where you go on this decision. If I had to pick, I don't know. It's a hard call. And if you look around the majors, only two teams in the majors right now have captains. Aaron Judge is the captain of the Yankees, and Salvador Perez is the captain of the Royals. The other 28 teams in baseball don't have captains. Of course, the Mets have had four captains in the history of their teams. Of course, the co-captains in '88 were Hernandez and Carter. In the '90s, John Franco was the team captain, and then David Wright. So all four of those men, Mets legends. Of course, I think Francisco Lindor, when it's all said and done, will go down as a Mets legend, if not a legend of baseball in and of itself. But again, it's a hard decision because, again, Soto's going to be here for the next 15 years. He's going to outlast everybody else that you would think could be a captain. Nimmo, the longest tenured Met. Usually when you think about captaincy, a team tenure plays a role. David Wright was on the team he was on the ball club for 8 years before he became appointed captain in 2013. So it's not an easy decision. But since the Mets have had co-captains before, if Mendoza and the brass say that, you know what, Nimmo and Lindor can be co-captains, I have no issue with it whatsoever. But that's just my opinion. If you guys have an opinion on who you think on this current roster should be the Mets captain, let me know in the comments. If you think Paul Blackburn should be allowed to work on his stuff while on the major league roster, if you think he deserves a spot on opening day, put it in the comments. Let me know what you think about Kodai, Senga, and David Peterson. And I'm Alfred Parsar Jr. Again, don't forget to subscribe because every time we drop a new episode, you'll get a notification for it. Until the next Metropolitan Report, I'll see you, and let's go Mets.